So this is the first set of interviews that I'm going to be doing as part of a series of, just getting to know the KPA practitioners a little bit better. And firstly, I would like to introduce Paul McAllister, who's become a good friend of mine over the years of practicing with Kambo. And Paul is a pharmacist who has a master's degree in pharmacy since 2015. He's also worked in hospitals and pharmacies in Belfast and Ireland. Is that right?
Dublin as well. Yeah, yeah.
And it was 2020, wasn't it, when you done your training, or was it 2021?
2021, yeah, because it's like
2020.
4 years or so, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul's also been practicing for 4 years as a Kambo practitioner, and more recently, he has now become a master Kambo practitioner after completing 20 months worth of case studies after his advanced training back in 2023.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, in April 2023. So welcome, Paul. First of all, I just want to say it's a massive pleasure to have you on here, and to, and I think it's great that we can open up this platform for people to get to know the KPA practitioners and a little bit about their history and personal life and their journey. So first of all, I just want you to just introduce yourself a little bit, what I haven't said already, just so people can get to know you. If there's anything else that you feel that people might like to know about yourself, Paul.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here, Lewis. It's a great opportunity. So yeah, my name's Paul. I run SoulScript. That's my wellness business that I help people journey through tapering off medication, particularly antidepressants. I'm very passionate about that. Just with my background in pharmacy, and working within addiction centers, I could see the limitations that the pharmaceuticals had on individuals, and them being sort of trapped within this system of being medicated. So I went on my own journey. As you know, I've studied and trained with yourself in Kambo, and then it's led me on to work with other different modalities, and I combine all these together to help people taper off medication. As I said, particularly antidepressants, but I'm also would love to open this up down the line to other psychiatric medication, particularly psychiatric medications, when I gather more experience, more confidence, more knowledge within this field. But anything else that you don't know about me? So I'm based in Belfast, which is in the north of Ireland. I did do a lot of work in Dublin, and specifically within the addiction centres, So, that's trying to think of anything else at the moment. Yes.
So what was it that made you want to get into doing pharmacy?
So back in school, I was quite academic, and there was always this push to be like, go do medicine, be a doctor. But at the same time, I sort of didn't realize at the time it was to do with like trauma and things like that. Like my mum left when I was quite young. And like when I reached like late teens, I just wanted to go out with friends, drink and party and all that jazz. So it was sort of my interest in like academia sort of like slipped. After I left school, there was a few years where I didn't really do anything. I did study a few part-time courses in the local college, but again, I just didn't know what direction my life was going in. And then I got accepted into pharmacy, and I was in a university just in the outskirts of London. So I felt like that was an opportunity to get away from Belfast. When I went over there, I was there for 5 years. I gained a lot of like different insights, different experience working in different areas, but at the same time, it was just something, I just like a void internally within me, So, it's hard to pinpoint. Like I just accepted pharmacy, like on a whim, not really knowing what I was letting myself in for. But when I was there, like I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the physiology of the body, how things work, taking medication and the administration of medication and the seriousness of this and the impacts it can have on people. So I felt like, okay, I felt like I was doing what was sort of pushed upon me, like going down the route of medicine. But I always knew that I wanted to help people. I wasn't just too sure how. And then after I moved back to Ireland from London, and I ended up moving to Dublin, and I was there for 5 years working in various different sectors, as you mentioned. But I believe that I ended up landing, like I thought was my dream job at the time, working within the addiction sector. Um, and I was there for a few years, but I could just see that, again, as I mentioned, like these people were just crying out for help, but again, that were just not being treated with respect. It was actually quite neglectful, do you know? So that's where like things just sort of flipped upside down. My view, my perspective of the world, which I thought was the direction and the path that I was meant to go on, was just like, yeah, it just flipped upside down, and I just could not see couldn't see like the purpose, or what my purpose was within this world. You know, that's why I'm having to detach myself from like the pharmacy world, and I'm working within that world.
So, what was the defining moment that made you decide to transition to becoming a Kambo practitioner and working more with alternative practices?
So it was at the start of lockdown, I felt really isolated. I was living in Dublin. My family were in Belfast. All my friends, again, were all in their little bubbles, and I was quite alone. And I found myself, I was drinking quite a bit, you know, but I knew that there was something that really deep down, there was something telling me you need to get to the root of what is going on internally within yourself. Don't be going to the doctor, because they're just going to put you on medication, and it's just going to suppress what's trying to work through your body. So I ended up going to a retreat. I had Kambo a few times at this retreat, but it was sort of at the retreat, it was sort of like it was being administered on like a conveyor belt, and people were like dropping like flies left, right, center, and I was like, what is going on? I don't know, but there was something with this medicine that I, the Kambo medicine, it felt like a warmth, like quite a nurturing experience, even though it's quite physical. It was like this, as if I was being held through something that I couldn't even explain at that moment in time. I purged quite a lot during I think I had Campbell twice at that retreat. And then after the retreat, there was always a call and to sit with the medicine. So I did sit with it several times after that. Um, Again, not fully understanding everything, and then or understanding how this medicine was working, or what was the purpose of it. But again, I was feeling something quite good every time I sat with the medicine, until I sat with like a really close friend with mine. He's a Kambo practitioner. His name's Shane, and he said it was like a 1-to-1 ceremony, because I always did it in a group setting before. And in this 1-to-1 ceremony, he really give thanks and reverence to the indigenous and the tribes and the spirit of Kambo. We sat in a meditation. He called in ancestors of the medicine, ancestors of the tribes, and then ancestors of the land of Ireland. And within that, he's trained in compassionate inquiry, and he delved a wee bit deeper into what was going on with me. And like he knew at that moment in time just to put the medicine on. And within that experience, I felt probably every emotion under the sun, like anger, sadness, grief, joy, bliss, everything, and still purged. And I was like, okay, at that moment, I was just like, no, I understand the potentials of this medicine. It's just not this physical purge. There was more beyond this. And something really shifted then. It was like working in addiction, like I can see how this has the potentials to help a lot of people here. So that's where my thought process on it, or my feelings around Campbell, really shifted, because it was served in a really integral way, you know, with a lot of respect for me and for the medicine. And I that was sort of like the pushing force and the driving force for me to become a practitioner then.
So, what was it that drew you to train with the Kambo Practitioner Alliance,
Yeah.
and how was that experience for you?
So I did do a bit of research around different associations, teaching bodies, and I came across at that point in my journey, like I came across there was a training, but it was 21 days and then a week of it sitting in silence and no interactions, you know, and I wasn't there in my journey to even go down that route. And then I listened to a podcast that you were on. I think the name of the podcast. Dealer to Healer or something like that. I think it was. And I listened to that, and there was just something within your story and your journey that was so relatable to mine. It made you real. I at that stage in my journey, I wasn't into all this hippy dippy shit. I just wanted something real, relatable, understandable, something like if I was to walk down the street where I live in Belfast, like you would be like a person who would, would be passing quite like someone that I would meet in Belfast, that type of that vibe. You've lived your life and you've had many experiences. So I wanted someone that I could feel safe with that way, and they can understand where I was coming from. And that's why I reached out to yourself and organized the training. I went down the route of doing a one-to-one training with yourself, and I really preferred that because it felt like I could just really focus all my attention on the studying. Um, and not have any other distractions around. But since then, like I've sat with yourself, like on like assisted on trainings and group settings, and like the group setting, I can really see how even more powerful that would be. Just at that moment in time, I felt that's where I was in my journey. I just wanted to be one-to-one and just really get stuck into this medicine. Plus I had to travel over to Liverpool, and again, I don't think there was like group trainings on at that time. But yeah, that's what drove me to one of the pushing factors to train with the KPA was because how relatable and how human you were. Yeah.
And yeah, I can relate to that, and I think that that's a benefit of there being so many different practitioners from different communities and different backgrounds.
Mhm.
Recently we've got an Islamic Muslim
Mhm.
practitioner. We've got people from all faiths,
Mhm.
all creeds, different communities,
Yeah.
and I think that that's really important because, like you say, you know, what what resonated about me was something that you could relate to, and that made you feel more safe. And
Yeah.
I think ultimately, when you're working with someone, is you have to feel that related. You have to feel like you can relate to them,
Mhm.
and you have to feel like you can trust them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there was just one person delivering a training or offering treatments to people,
Yeah.
then it might not work for everyone else. So I think it's good that we have that variation
Yeah.
of different practitioners.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like at that moment in time, say 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been in a position to travel to the other side of the world, sit with the indigenous. I probably would have been shit scared as well. I wouldn't have understood even language barriers. There's just so much within it, uh, and it's key that there is a variation, a diversity of practitioners. Because people feel called to sit with different people for particular reasons that is personal to them. Yeah, that's it's great that the Kambo is being shared by a range of different people. Yeah.
So, what is it about the training that you feel is the most important aspect of learning to be a practitioner?
Most important aspect, and I think this actually, and we've discussed this quite a bit, is like I think it's to do with my pharmacy background, and it's all to do with safety. Safety is key. Like making sure that you're aware of the contraindications, medical conditions. It's we all have access to the internet and Google, so we can check medical conditions and just have like a bit of an understanding or check to see what this medical condition affects in the body. But safety is really, really key. Safety for the individual, but also safety for the medicine, and for yourself, because we don't want things to go wrong. Like if something went wrong, like your risk of being liable, but also risk of this medicine being like banned, that so many people use and need access to. So the safety modules were key. Like going into the contraindications and holding that space, making sure that you're fully present in the ceremony, and fully present for the individual going through the process. Yeah,
So, do you believe that the training covers all of these aspects?
it does. Yes, it's very it's something that is actually covered quite a lot and nearly every single day, and all the different aspects is like it all goes back to the safety and being present for the 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 client going through the process. Because even in the different stages of the training when we got to work with each other or well, on a group setting, or working with a member of the public who was coming in for a treatment. We always have to cover these safety implications, sure, to ensure that the person is right for the medicine. And sometimes these safety, most of the times actually, these safety implications are checked before the client's even in front of you. So it's just like making sure you have a proper screening process, for the client to review before they actually have the medicine.
We've actually had quite a few practitioners come on the training now who've already been working with Kambo and didn't have any training.
Yeah.
And for me, that's probably one of the most worrying aspects of the rise in popularity of Kambo, is that there are people that are practicing and they don't have any training. And there was people on the last training course, there was 2 people who'd been practicing before, and one of them shared with me that they know one of their friends who'd been receiving Kambo after they'd had like stroke and like other like serious contraindications. And it's like, these type of things just shouldn't be happening. And I think that, like, for me, the most important thing is that people are educated and understand the safety risks and understand how to properly mitigate these risks and understand exactly what it is to do. So for me, yeah, like I said, it's echoing your belief on what's the most important thing is the safety.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate working with clients that may be nervous or skeptical about Kambo?
Well, if a client is skeptical, like maybe like not fully understanding like the process or the benefits of Kambo, like I would ensure that that's covered on like the screening form. Like I cover that with the individual. Also maybe have a phone call with them beforehand if they're sort of sitting on the fence and not really sure, and also give them real life cases of this is the benefits of taking this medicine. Like for me, I go through the benefits that I get when I sit with Kambo. But if an individual is nervous, again, I'd maybe have a little discussion with them beforehand, find out why they want to do it. Maybe, again, they might not be sure if it's me, the practitioner, the right person, or if they want to sit with someone else, or if it's more to do with the medicine. But if the client, when they arrive for the session, if they decide to go with myself and they are very nervous, I always do a little bit of breathing techniques, like quick, get them grounded, sit with them and talk through the whole process, make it really clear of what they'll feel, what they'll experience, possibly experience, they might not experience all of it, and then go through the benefits, most of the time when people are quite anxious or nervous, it's something that they're dealing with quite a lot in their life, so really highlighting that, maybe going through this process that's 20, 30 minutes long, even though it can be quite tough sometimes, but like at the other end, you'll feel a lot more grounded, a lot more in your body. And the anxiety's popping its head up to be dealt with and looked at and to be released, so making this clear to them, and you never know, like after the 20-minute process, like that anxiety that could be cleared out of the body and something that they might not be dealing with afterwards, but being very calm, reassuring, making sure that I'm grounded as well and present for the individual to make sure they feel safe.
Personally, I've had much experience with people that have come with similar issue like anxiety prior to the treatments, and like countless cases of people saying that after the treatment their anxiety had gone completely. Like for me, that's quite miraculous. Now, obviously, we need to be cautious not to make broad claims about how Kambo can work with anxiety, but have you any experience with something similar?
With anxiety, or just it could be sort of anything. Well, like I've actually had like a client recently, lost his partner a few years ago. It was quite a distressful time for him, because his partner was quite young. He was feeling a lot of anxiety coming up in his body, but he could really. I was like, "Have you went through a grieving process?" And he was like, "No, I hadn't. I've got kids. I just need to like truck on with this." But he was coming to me that he was feeling really anxious. So we sat down, we actually started to discuss it more about grief and how the grief was how grief would impact the body, and impact the mind. You know, if you're feeling this physical sensation of grief in the body, that how it can impact your thought process and make you feel that everything's crumbling around you. So what we did then was, like, we did a few breathing techniques, and like I am trained in various different styles of bodywork, but I did a few, I worked on a few trigger points in his body that process grief before we worked with the Kambo. And he went into quite a physical release during breathing techniques. Like he shook, he trembled quite a bit. And the tears started to flow. And then at that time, just whenever the tears stopped flowing, I knew it was the right time to put the candle on then, so he was able to really feel into that. Afterwards, he feel into the grief, which he thought was anxiety, um, and after it, he felt so clear, so light, and he sent me a message a few days later saying it never felt as peaceful and calm in his body in a long, long time. But it was like how he wasn't able to understand it, or I don't want to say that he wasn't able to identify like the emotions that were in his body, and he just seen them as anxiety, and he couldn't face it.
There's a lot of contradictory views about the cathartic element of Kambo. Not so much in the fact that Kambo does facilitate cathartic release, but on the importance of that. Now, there's a lot of belief online that it's just about getting the peptides in. What's your personal view on this?
I personally think it is. It's a purgative medicine or cathartic release. I have experienced even let's say like this microdose of Kambo. I just wanted to, because I had seen it online. I was like, I'm going to give this a go. And personally, the days afterwards, I just felt like this was like a heaviness lingering over myself. And again, if we are to hold this medicine with like the reverence and the integrity and the respect that the tribes work with this, that I love the thought and the belief that they see it as a purgative medicine. So if we're carrying this, if we're wanting to work with it in the same way and respect that the tribes do, like, it is a purgative medicine in my eyes.
Mm. Yeah, it's actually interesting that recently I've been looking into the works of Galen from the ancient Greek times.
Mm-hmm.
The origins of the pharmacia,
Mm-hmm.
and actually their original medicines was the use of venoms, mixtures of venoms that were used to purge.
Yeah,
and that was common practice all over ancient Greece.
It's like it's even like for anything, like what if we were to say go for a breathwork session, like I'm not saying it's always about it, like for there you have some form of cathartic release within the breathwork, even if that is like if it is some shaking, or it doesn't necessarily have to be like the crying or the rage, but we're going there to release somehow, and it's yes the Kambo is more like on the spectrum of more of a purgative where you will vomit or need to go to the toilet. But there also is like the crying, there is the shaking, there is the rage release. Like I have had clients who actually didn't vomit, but they bawled, they shook for like 20, 30 minutes. That was the release that they needed. Then they maybe message me later that night and be like, yeah, I actually released, I had to go to the toilet. But that's at that moment in time, that's the release they needed. And it doesn't, like, I think if you were sitting with the medicine and just feel these peptides in your system, I don't know if you're going to feel the full benefits of it.
Yeah, from my experience working with Kambo for 10 years now, I found that the treatments that I work with where I don't purge, it does leave kind of like this lingering, like feeling of like of being. It's kind of like just teetering around the edges of releasing something. I feel like there's like an anticlimax there. There's like something that's been unresolved. For me, even last weekend, I'd done a Kambo treatment, and then I decided to do another one straight after because I felt like there was still something there to purge. This not on a physical level, but purely like there was something that needed to be released. So I think that it's important for us not to feel that we need to push for a purge, but at the same time, there's definitely something in that release during a Kambo treatment.
It's also, you probably see, like, the medicine's just meeting the person where they're at as well. And it's just this thing, it's like we all have a window of tolerance, you know, and an individual may not be fully ready to experience that purgative thing out of a purgative release because again, element of fear there. Because again, in society, it's not normal to be vomiting into a bucket. You know, it's well not normal. You know, when
Yeah.
during like the camp process, it is quite normal. So it's I think it is just meeting the person where they're at, even if it is through microdosing. Okay, this is where this is only as far I could go. But like again, maybe they're just wanting to build that relationship or like be comfortable in the medicine before they fully step into that release. But like once you have the purge, I personally feel that you have like a better understanding of how this medicine works and a lot more clarity within yourself.
Absolutely. So, how do you incorporate other healing practices or modalities into your Kambo practice?
So through the advanced training, Lewis taught the students like how to bring in elements of like soul retrieval and PASI, which is practitioner assisted self inquiry, which is like sort of like a consultation to help the client to delve a bit deeper into their thought processes, their patterns, and their beliefs that they're holding in the body. And through the case studies, like I used a blend of these other modalities with the Kambo, with the process of Kambo. And again, as I mentioned previously, like over the years, I've trained in a lot of various different body work, somatic release and things like that. So, whenever I like would have like a consultation or with with a client, you know, using like the PASI process, you can sort of see maybe ask them where you feeling this in the body. So bringing elements of like somatic release, where you'd be working on trigger points and like de-armoring these parts of the body. It helps soften or get things moving energetically. And then I have found like since I've started doing this, people uh go into the process pretty quickly, you know, and have quite deep purges. Like an example that I give you is I not too long ago worked with a guy. He was very in his like fight or flight, really like in the sympathetic nervous system. Had a history of it using drugs, substances, and alcohol for quite a long time. So I thought like this guy's quite in the fight or flight. You know, I need to like get him a bit more relaxed into his body. So we used various different like breathing techniques, and then just because about his history, I did like a bit of like a trigger release or like a de-arming process around his liver area, um, which brought like you could see like this because in like Chinese medicine things like that and a lot of like ancient practices like the liver's associated with anger or rage. Like you could see this element of like anger processing in his body after I'd done a bit of work around his liver. His face went really red, and then once the body stopped shaking and that, yeah, we went into the process of Campbell, and instantly, like after the test point, I knew that this guy didn't need much medicine. So just, I think I put 3 dots of Campbell on in total, and it was a lot of bile, really, really like yellow green sick came out instantly. And it was quite deep. And it was a really, really quick process because I personally feel that we shifted things within his body for the Campbell to really. So what we're doing, like in body work, we're like going deep into these areas in the body where things are stored. We're bringing it to the surface, and then because Campbell works in the lymphatic system, I feel that Campbell just was ready to flush it completely out. So I do incorporate elements of breathwork and bodywork, somatics, into my sessions, and all before the Campbell, and also after. Whenever I see like some clients during after their process, and I don't do this all the time. I do this with consent if the client's open to it. Sometimes people can have that quite like the trembling after Campbell, their body's shaking. But like if you can sort of understand like the patterns in the body, you can see where the trembling's a little bit stuck. Because ideally you'd want the whole body to tremble and shake. And say like a lot of the times it just gets stuck around the hips in people. So I would get them to lie on their back This is after the whole purging process, lying there back and like move the body in slight different ways or hold a wee bit of pressure on a different area of the body to like sort of like encourage or entice the trembling to work the whole way through the body. And what that is like you're bringing like implicit memories, making them more explicit. You're bringing them to the surface for it to be fully released. And a lot of the time, once the trembling and the shaking stopped, like the person will have quite a big emotional release then because it's just something that's completing the full process, you know. So I know Kambo is very, very powerful on its own and it brings a lot to the surface and it helps things move. But it was just out of a curiosity. It was like, I want to see what way this will work then. And like it has been getting really, really amazing results with people, you know, like using different elements of trigger points or somatic release, you know, on their physical body.
That's amazing. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, well done, Paul.
Yeah.
So what has been your experience with the Kambo Practitioner Alliance community?
So the community, I feel that it's a very trustworthy, encouraging community. Like after I trained, there's yourself, with yourself, you added me into the WhatsApp group, and there was already, I think it was about 50 practitioners when after we're in the group, and everyone was very welcoming. And with my background in pharmacy, if people were asking me questions around about particular pharmaceuticals and things like that was safe for clients to have Kambo if they're on these medicines. And like I was using my expertise and everyone was very, very grateful, very thankful and very encouraging of my growth and my progress within the community. Something that we spoke about, I think last week where compliments and people like encouraging you to like really do better and stuff like that. I would previously really struggle with that, but like the community has been so warm towards me and very, very grateful for the nice words they say about me, but also I'm also very grateful for them and very grateful for yourself, Liz, because you're one of the people over the past few years who's really been very encouraging, very supportive of my journey and growth and process and seen things in me that maybe I didn't see at the time. And like that's, yeah, I can accept these compliments and like I receive them with a lot of love. Whereas several years ago, I was just quite closed to positivity, you know, or any support. So the community is it comes together. And again, as I said, very, very supportive of each other and their growth. Like they're like, we're all like each other's cheerleaders, just wanting everyone to do well and really step up and step into their full potential.
It's actually quite rare, that, isn't it?
Yeah. And like that was fun. Like whenever I sort of like came into this world, I thought everyone's going to be love and light and rainbows and sunflowers. And I was quite shocked to know that there's quite a lot of competitiveness. I don't want to say, well, actually bitchiness as well, you know, and people really out for themselves. And that was quite a bit of a shock to me because I thought I left that world behind because it's very like that in the pharmaceutical world. It's very like dog eat dog. You need to be the boss. You need to be earning the most, all this jazz. And that was something I really wanted to leave behind. But again, yeah, I'm sure you do get it everywhere in any sort of sector or any community. But like, yeah, I was a bit shocked to begin with coming into like the healing spaces that people don't want. Not everyone, but some people don't want to see you succeed, and that's why. Yeah, like you've been very, very. I know everyone else in the KPA group has been very supportive and encouraging for me and my journey.
Yeah, I believe like as a community, like if you set that tone, that's how we are, you know, as an association. This is for me, is one of the most important things about being a leader in a community is to make sure that is what we're doing with each other. We're supporting each other. There isn't any, you know, jealousy. There isn't any competitiveness.
Yeah.
And I think that when that's ruled out or nipped in the bud
Yeah.
before we start, because I won't accept it anyway.
Yeah.
And people know that like, you know, any bullshit like that gets completely ruled out. But it never does. It's like, you know, that people just genuinely respect each other. And I'm very proud of the association for that and for the community.
Yeah.
But I'm also very proud of you, Paul, as a practitioner because of your expertise in pharmacy. And and the thing is, in this part of the world, there's so many people on so many different medications. Like it would just be a guessing game
Yeah.
as to who's suitable to take Kambo or not.
Yeah.
And and with my experience and your expertise together, I feel that it's really beneficial
Yeah.
for us to have this community where people can ask questions about certain medications. And I just want to commend you, Paul, for being there every day, answering questions for the practitioners that are always asking questions. The group is busy.
Yeah.
There's
That's it.
a few posts a day,
Yeah.
and and I'm just glad that it doesn't feel like a burden to you, and it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
too much hard work. It seems like there's a very kind of supportive energy there, and it doesn't feel,
Yeah.
even for me, it doesn't feel like to answer questions in that group is a priority with so many other things that I've got going on in my life. The KPA group has the priority
Mhm.
over many things, because I feel that it's a huge responsibility, and to be able to manage a community of practitioners that are practicing with this incredibly beautiful but also incredibly powerful medicine.
Mhm.
And I just want to commend you, Paul, for supporting me in that and giving people sound and solid advice on what it is that they need to know about these contraindications.
It's amazing to see, like, actually in the group as well, other people then, like, answering the questions, it's like, because they're obviously gathering knowledge and wisdom, or having an understanding of actual pharmaceuticals and how the
Yeah.
Kambo, the mechanism of action of Kambo is going to impact these medications and stuff. And yeah, like, it's like there's times I don't even have to like even think, because it's, people are so confident in their answers as well, and like they're obviously doing their own research and looking into stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, as things do, there's always evolving knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of like what works with Kambo and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing's for sure is that the methods that we've used so far, since I've been practicing for the last 10 years, things have changed and improved. But with the way that the training is and the contraindications that are in place, none of our practitioners have ever had any casualties.
Mm-hmm.
And people, there's quite a few of us now, and there's a lot of people receiving Kambo, and the casualties that we do hear of are usually down to some kind of practitioner negligence. How important is it, do you feel, that anybody who's thinking about becoming a Kambo practitioner trains with an association that has a supportive community?
I believe it's very, very important. Like, it's important to train with an association where you can trace, like, the lineage of the actual teachers back to a source, and what experience the teachers have themselves. How many people have they taught? Have they actually went and met the frog, or what connection do they have with the tribes, or any contact with them, or support, and making sure that medicine's sourced ethically. But within an association, a supportive association as the KPA, like, you do the training, but there's always, like, it's free to be part of this membership, the WhatsApp groups there. You always support each individual. Like, you share about them on your page on the website, so it's, people are still getting, they're getting their services put out there through yourself. But to do the training, like, if you're interested in going down that route, I would, again, ask questions. Ask the teacher questions, and make sure, and if the questions along, like, what about things like medication safety, about what is the process if things do go wrong, like, in emergencies, um and how to, like, safely work with the medicine. If the teacher's not willing to answer anything like this, then that would be a red flag for me, and that's the same as, even, like, if you're seeking for a practitioner, like, we have to ask the clients questions for safety. But again, the clients have just as much right to ask us questions about our experience and why we're wanting to work with the medicine, or what how have we worked with the medicine for our own journey. So yeah, like, making sure you ask questions, and if anything just doesn't feel right, or it's a red flag, just maybe seek elsewhere or ask about. Like Kambo is quite popular at the moment, and I'm sure a majority of people know someone who knows someone who is a facilitator, or you can just go on like online or on Google or Instagram and find people in your area. But if again, just find a practitioner or a teacher who has protocols and processes in place, and is there to support you on your own journey.
Yeah, I think that the health questionnaires and things like that are really important. Like if a practitioner wasn't to give you a health questionnaire, then that would instantly be a red flag.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, the thing is with the Kambo Practitioner Alliance is that our ethics have always been around, firstly, ensuring that Kambo is practiced safely, and secondly, to ensure that the medicine that we source is ethically sourced, and we know and have a direct link to the suppliers of the medicine. In fact, the medicine that we source comes from one particular family, and sometimes it comes from other closer families, but we know directly and have a very close relationship with this particular family that collect the medicine. So I feel that, to cover all these bases is really important. So if people are looking to do to become a Kambo practitioner, these are the sort of questions that should be asked. Because what we don't want is the exploitation of the medicine. We want to ensure proper reciprocity and to ensure that everyone in the chain of supply is happy, and including the frogs.
Yeah. I was even like for an example, individuals can go to South America and train, say, with indigenous and tribes or Nazis, but at the same time, the indigenous peoples wouldn't be aware of the actual medical conditions that we suffer in the Western world and the medication that we're on. So I do believe that training with someone who has an understanding of both, is key. Key for your journey and your process and with working with the medicine, but also for the medicine to be served really safely within your community.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Paul. And you know better than anybody that the amount of medications that people are taking nowadays and health conditions, these just aren't present in these traditional communities. And after spending many hours, days with the Matsis tribe and asking many questions to them, they told me that they've never had any issues whatsoever with any of giving Kambo to anyone. They give Kambo to 6-year-old children, to 10-year-olds. It's completely ingrained in their culture, completely. And there's people out there that will say that we need to leave it with them, and that we need, to become a taiter or a shaman, you need 70 years of experience and things like that. But one thing that I can completely say as truth is, from having much experience there myself, is that the way that Kambo administered it in the indigenous communities is very relaxed. It's literally, apply the Kambo and that's it, leave you in, to go through it. Now the thing is that I completely agree with honoring traditional ways, but at the same time, with people with the health conditions that we have and the medications that people are on, we can't just give people a Kambo treatment and leave them outside. That's why there is a need for a Kambo practitioner training that incorporates the knowledge of people like yourself and safety protocols.
It's also like, as we touched on, like the world is chaotic at the moment, and UK, Ireland, like there's a lot of chaos going on here, and people just don't have financial ability to travel to South America with this medicine. They might not be in the right frame of mind, and they need something. They need something now. They don't want to go down the route of medication, So having access to these medicines, which has definitely been given permission to the likes of yourself from the tribes to work with us, because you have made contact with them, So having for people to have access to this medicine in their community is key, And this is how we're I don't want to go down the whole like raising the consciousness of the word, but like people that really connect to their own bodies, have a bit more self love and healing, and acceptance of themselves is it's going to ripple out that way, you know. So going down the route of 17 years of training to be a candid is not it's not feasible for people's well being and these communities here anyway in Ireland and England, you know. So
And also, it's not necessary
mhm,
to like I just mentioned, you know, in these tribal communities. I mean, I can't speak for every tribal community, but the ones that I've had experience with is that the application side of Kambo is done very, very widely
so
to like not just limited to certain initiates or people. There, it is widely used by most people within the community,
yeah, mhm,
and it's used for things like primarily one of the main uses for Kambo is hunting,
mhm,
and it's done almost daily by some people, and you know, like I said, even children. And there is very, very little need for any kind of shamanic experience when it's done. It's a very, very practical application
yeah,
from my experience in the traditions that I've worked with.
mhm,
So there is a misconception, I think, that, you know, that obviously this medicine is very sacred, very beautiful medicine, but people can sometimes get caught up in the fact that it needs to be held by a shaman,
mhm,
when in fact it doesn't, because, well, I can attest to that myself. You know, 10 years of working with the medicine, you do develop an understanding of it. You develop an understanding of how it works on an emotional, spiritual, physical level. And, you know, I'm not an indigenous shaman,
mhm,
and I've created a hell of a lot of success stories for people, and the ripples of being able to teach people and then witnessing how far those ripples spread by the practitioners then being able to teach people in their community is absolutely priceless.
yeah.
And this is a path, it's a purpose for myself, and I know it is for you.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, what would be any words of advice that you would give to any of the listeners about Kambo, anything at all, any lessons that you've learned, any lessons that you might want to share with the listeners?
Um, what would I like to share? I again use use my brains just went blank. But yes, the just as I said before, like if you're seeking out a practitioner or want to do training, you know, you have the autonomy to ask questions. Like it's your it is also your responsibility as well. Just as much as it is the responsibility of the facilitator. Um, you have respect for the medicine, have respect for your process as well. Take it really slow and be really gentle on yourself. And I do believe like really connecting to your body is key in all aspects of healing, do you know? Um, Especially with the likes of plant medicines and Kambo, because this is where we're holding the pain, the emotions, the trauma. It's in the body. It's not out there in the ether somewhere. So really digging deep and but being gentle is all my words of advice at this moment in time. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Thanks for the
Mostly,
chat,
yeah.
and yeah,
You have me on.
take it take it easy. Okay.